Hello, good day, my SM viewers. This is Satellite Media. Let us look at the controversy involving Nigerian government, that is federal government, and a Chinese company, where an arbitration panel have since ruled in faraway France, giving away three Nigerian presidential jets to a Chinese company. We understand that as it stands, the company in question already released one of the presidential jets for the president to embark on an official visit to France. But we are looking at it from the premise of Nigerian government using an Nnamdi Kanu template to shoot itself in the foot, or rather on the foot. And what is the template we are looking at? We are looking at impunity. We are looking at disobedience to court order, because we understand that a former governor of Ogun State, because from what we understand, the contract that brought this national or rather international embarrassment came from Ogun State. Because going by international law, it has been established that if a subnational government enter into contractual agreement with any foreign investor, and when there is default, that federal government is liable to pay whatever penalty that comes from thereof. But having said that, I think a former governor of Ogun State have abundantly clarified the parts of Ogun State, to the extent that they got a correspondent from the Chinese government, where there was an order from the government of China, giving them the mandate, or rather a clearer view of what or the fraudulent and deceit the company involved did, that gave them the leverage, the right to terminate the contract with, I'm talking about Shangfu Investment Company, which is now dragging federal government at the international level. But let us understand that this Shangfu Investment Company is a subsidiary of Shangyang Fungjing Industry Investment Company Limited. Of course, is a Chinese company. But for what we can understand, the area I am focusing majorly this morning has to do with the impunity on the part of federal government. And what is that impunity? You understand that in the past in Nigeria, there are so many instances where the government, or rather the court, I mean to say, will give judgment regarding an individual, regarding involving federal government, and federal government will be picking and choosing which court order to obey. We have seen that happen in the case of Dasuki in the past, where a court, or not just one court, several courts gave judgment on perhaps the release of Dasuki under Muhammadu Buhari, and the government will be lackadaisical about obeying that court order. We have equally seen it happen in the case of a case involving Nnamdi Kanu severally, where the court will give order and the government will not appeal it, and the government, sorry, even if the government is appealing it, the government will not obey the court order. Particularly the court order of Court of Appeal that ruled that an Nnamdi Kanu was extraordinary rendition from Kenya to Nigeria. Of course, we understand that federal government appealed that case to Supreme Court, but until the Supreme Court gave an order that the case should go back and start de novo, meaning starting afresh, it is not on record that federal government actually secured a state of execution of that judgment that warranted an Nnamdi Kanu not enjoying that judgment until there was a reversal of that judgment at the Supreme Court. And in the same vein, we are seeing what is happening here, because from what we understand, the company involved, I'm talking about this Shangfu, did not just on their own go ahead to seize three presidential jets in faraway France. Of course, they secured a judgment of court. It was an arbitration tribunal chaired by a French president, by a former president of the Supreme Court of UK, and it actually awarded them 74 point something million pounds. Of course, you know what that means. And the area of impunity I'm talking about, the area of recklessness I'm talking about, the area of Nnamdi Kanu's template I'm talking about, has to do with the government not taking necessary steps to address this issue of this arbitration judgment before it came to the point of international embarrassment. Because the government will not feign ignorance to say they are not aware, or rather they are unaware of this arbitration panel, that there was a judgment in this regard mandating the Nigerian government to pay the company in question about 74 point something million pounds. It is not to say that the company may be right or wrong, but what we are saying here is that the government would have taken necessary steps, legal necessary steps, to see whether they could challenge the order. I mean the arbitration, the judgment from the arbitration panel, to see whether they could challenge it, to see whether they could appeal it. I think all this was not done. If they did it, we would not get to where we are. And at the end of the day, the company in question approached another court for enforcement of the judgment in question. I think that enforcement is the one that gave rise to what we now see as a judgment that gave the company the right to seize 3 presidential jets. So at this point, I think as a people, as a government, for me, just like P2B have said, you cannot take that away. This is an international embarrassment that the government is bringing to herself, to itself, and to our citizens. Because you can imagine the damage this is causing to Nigerian citizens abroad, both home and abroad. And of course, Nigeria will be seen as a country that does not respect the rule of law. Of course, that is not strange to most of us who are in Nigeria here. We know that has always been the modus operandi of the government, choosing and picking quick cut order to obey, but taking that impunity to the international arena, for me, is most embarrassing. And I think, if need be, there are people who are saddled with responsibility of addressing these issues or handling them as at when due. I think that should begin to rule at this point, because we have the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. I think that should be the ministry that is saddled with responsibility of handling this on behalf of the Nigerian government. So at what point, or what did they do before it came to this level of international embarrassment? If they did it needful by engaging the relevant authorities globally, by engaging, because we can understand now that currently the government is talking about both diplomatic and legal means will be deployed to address the current quagmire. But why is it that the government did not use this approach before it came to this level of international embarrassment? The damage has been done. Whatever you try to do at this point, for me, is damage control. Damage control does not necessarily immediately redeem the image of the country and her citizens. And on this note, I'm of the view that the government should identify who did not do the right thing at the right time, for purpose of punitive action, to act as deterrence to others. Because this is not the kind of embarrassment we hope to see in the near future. Because if you are given a position of responsibility and you renege, or perhaps there's the dereliction of duty, I think it should come with consequence. And that consequence is what should come in form of the punishment we are talking about. Because however I look at it, the presidential jet has been seized. This is being procured by taxpayers' money. And if eventually they are not able to secure the release of the remaining 2, just as the company have, according to them, graciously released one of them to enable the president make his official trip, if at the end of the day the other 2 are not released, and perhaps the company in question auctions it out, and the government need another presidential jet, or 2 more presidential jets, of course that will be actually purchased or procured with taxpayers' money. And we are talking about scarce resources in the face of food inflation in Nigeria, in the face of hardship in Nigeria. Of course, it's not what we want to hear from the government at this point. And if the government is not willing to address it by a way of bringing corporates to justice, I think that type of silence may mean that perhaps the high and mighty in government may be culpable in this regard. I think this is a good place to let it go. I must say, baby, thank you for your time. I'm Mr. Matthew, and this is Satellite Media. Thank you very much.